Alright, hello everyone, this is Hidden Planet X, and today we're going to do another deck tech. This one's going to be, it's not my deck, it's a friend's deck, but I thought I'd share it with you. This is more of a casual deck that I helped her make. So, this is an Olivia Voldaren Vampire Tribal deck. Its colors are red-black, and it really just goes around the vampire sub-theme. So as you can tell, there's going to be a lot of creatures and stuff like that. So Olivia Voldaren is a 3/3 flying vampire for, again, 2 black red. For 1 and a red, she can deal 1 damage to another target creature. That creature becomes a vampire, and it puts a +1/+1 counter on Olivia. It's technically a form of removal if you have enough mana, but it really goes into this next ability. 3 and double black. Gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Voldaren. So, as a vampire, she takes... I mean, it's weird she takes other vampires, but... So basically what you want to be doing late game is pinging their threats and then taking them for your own and making Olivia huge. It is really easy to kill someone on commander damage. Olivia just can grow and grow and grow really easily. Since this is a vampire deck, let's start off with the creatures. We'll start off with Anawan, the Ruined Sage. 3 and double black for a 4/3 vampire shaman. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. So, yeah, if you have him actually, no, because all the creatures you steal are vampires. So, this doesn't hit almost anything in your deck, and a free Sholdred, basically, for 5 mana instead of 7 is really nice. Next up, again, not an amazing card, but it's the Baron of all vampires. You really can't say no if you're running Vampire Tribal. 5 and triple black for a 5/5 flying vampire. Baron Sanguir. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Baron Sanguir is put into the graveyard this turn, you get a +2/+2 counter on him. Yeah, +2/+2, not 2 +1/+1s, a +2/+2 counter. So you can tell this is an old card. And you can tap him to regenerate another target vampire. So he saves all your other vampires. So that's really why you run him. If you want to make this a little more competitive, again, you probably want to cut him. He's way too expensive. Next up, Blood Artist. 1 and a black, 0/1 vampire. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses a life and you gain 1 life. Again, you don't have a whole lot of mass token strategies, but it gains you some life and it kills your opponents. If anything, it's slow, but... next up is Bloodline Keeper. I'll show you the front side first, then we'll go on the back side. 2 and double black for a 3/3 flying vampire. You can tap him to put a 2/2 vampire creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So really nice first ability. It does allow you to amass some tokens, and then you can pay black and transform him. Activate this only if you control 5 or more vampires. So, what do you get? Well, if it'll show, come on. There we go. Lord of Lineage, a 5/5 flying vampire with other vampires you control get +2/+2, and the same tap to put a 2/2. So, really nice vampire lord, not that hard to get out, and he'll make 4/4s assuming he stays on the field. So nice card to have. Next up, Butcher of Malakir, 5 and double black for a 5/4 vampire warrior with flying. Whenever it or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. So again, Grave Pact on a vampire, really nice effect, really helps. It really stops players from killing your things unless you're killing it. Next up, Captivating Vampire, 1 and double black for a 2/2 vampire. It's a vampire lord, and you can tap 5 untapped vampires you control. To gain control of target creature, it becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. It can be one of the vampires, so you can tap him and 4 others to steal something permanently. So, again, not that hard, especially with Bloodline Keeper going, to get this going and just start taking things. Next up, Cryptghast. It's one of the few non-vampire cards, but it's just such a good card to be having in almost mono black. We are splashing red a bit, but it's basically mono black. 3 and a black for a 2/2 spirit with extort. I'm not really going to go into extort. Whenever you tap a swamp for mana, add black to your mana pool. So it doubles all your swamps. Nice card to have. It doubles your mana for cheap. Next up, Dark Imposter, 2 and a black for a 2/2 Vampire Assassin. For 4 and 2 black, exile target creature card and put a +1/+1 counter on Dark Imposter. So, yeah, it's not the cheapest removal, but it's an exile effect, and this thing does grow larger. It also has the activated abilities of all creatures exiled this way. That generally doesn't come up too often, but who knows, it might. Next up, Drana, 3 and double black for a 4/4 Vampire Shaman flying. X and double black, target creature gets either -X or -0/-X, or target creature gets -0/-X until end of turn. Drana gets +X/+0 until end of turn. So she basically drains the essence of one creature and makes herself stronger. So again, another removal and it makes her large. Falcon Wrath Aristocrat, 2 and black red for a 4/1 flying haste vampire. With sacrifice a creature, it gains indestructible. If the sacrificed creature was a human, you put a +1/+1. Again, not really any humans in this deck, so you're not really going to get the value. But with all the creatures you're stealing, just in case they get out some way of getting it back, free sack outlet's never bad. Falcon Wrath Exterminator, 1 and a red for a 1/1 Vampire Archer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And for 2 and a red, it deals damage to target creature equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So yeah, you're really hoping to hit this a little earlier, but this is Commander. Oftentimes, someone's probably not going to have a creature out. Gatekeeper of Malakir, double black for a 2/2 with kicker black. When it enters, if it was kicked, target player sacrifices a creature. So it's not amazing. You might want to just take this out, but it is a sacrifice effect. So Callistia Highborn, double black for a 2/2 Vampire Shaman. Whenever it or another creature you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay black. If you do, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 2. It loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So another drain effect. Nice to have just in case you don't have anything else to do for your turn. Next up is Kalitas, Blood Chief of Get, 5 and double black for a 5/5 Vampire Warrior. With triple black, destroy target creature. If the creature is put into the graveyard, put a black vampire creature token where its power and toughness are equal to the creature that was destroyed this way. So he kills things and then brings them back. We haven't had a chance because of standard prices to grab a new Kalitas, the new one, because this would also go really good in this deck. But nice card to have. It's a bit expensive, but it's a cool effect. This is, again, more of a casual style deck, so we're going for big swingy effects rather than just amazing, cheap kill you cards. So next up, 1 and double red for a 2/2 Vampire Warrior, Markov Blade Master. It's a 1/1 double striker, and when it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this will trigger each time it hits. So when it swings the first time, it'll get 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Next, every time it gains 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead of 1. So yeah, it's a little expensive and you can't swing the first turn, but it really grows and grows and grows. And even a 3/3 double striker is really good. Miri the Cursed, 2 and double black for a 3/2 Vampire Cat. With flying, first strike, and haste. Whenever this deals combat damage to a creature and that creature is put into whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, you put a +1/+1 counter on Mirai the Cursed. So most of the time you're just going to take 3. They're just going to let it pass. It's also a really good blocker in case you want to hold it back, because every time people block it, it gets stronger. Next up, Necropolis Regent, 3 and triple black for a 6/5 flying vampire. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. Now, this is amazing. So, whenever you're swinging with your Markov Blade Master or your Mirai the Cursed, it's going to grow huge if they connect. And it really makes people want to block, even if they basically just kind of chump it. So next up, Nirkana Reverent, 4 and double black for a 4/4 Vampire Shade. It's the same Cryptghast effect, and it also has black. It gets +1/+1 till end of turn. So it's a great card. It doubles your mana. You're not going to get it out early game, but late game, it's a real threat because with all that black mana, if you don't have anything else to do with it, you can just pump it, give it +4/+4 easy, or even more if you want. Next up, Rakish Air. I think I pronounced that right. Sorry if I didn't. 2 and a red for a 2/2 vampire. Whenever a vampire you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this counts itself, and it just makes your vampires grow. So that way they can't just say, okay, I take 2. Now it's I take 3, I take 4, I take 5. That's a lot of damage coming in. Next up, Sangromancer. I think this is a little older version of the deck. I think I need to update it, but I believe we took this card out. But for right now, it's a 3/3 flying vampire shaman for 2 and double black. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you gain 3 life, and whenever an opponent discards a card, you gain 3 life. So not amazing. I think we took it out just because it didn't have the effect we wanted. We're not running a lot of discard effects, so Next up, Sheoldred, another one of the non-vampire creatures in the deck, but it's just such a good card, you really can't say no. 5 and double black for a 6/6 Praetor with Swamp Walk. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Really good. It gets all your threats back, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player sacrifices a creature. Another Anawan, never hurts anyone. Next up, Stormkirk Captain, 1 and black-red for a 2/2 Vampire Soldier first striker, and it's a Vampire Lord, and also gives first strike. So it just really helps in combat. Next up, Vampire Nighthawk. Again, we might have removed this card, I'm not sure. 1 and double black for a 2/3 Vampire Shaman flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink. Again, it holds down the fort, and it attacks in pretty well, because no one wants to really block this thing. And lastly, Vampire Nocturnus, 1 and triple black for a 3/3 vampire. Play with the top card of your library revealed. If the top card is a black, this and every other vampire get +2/+1 and flying. So it makes this a 5/4 flyer, and it just gives all stat boost to that. Because not all the vampires like Rakish Air and some of the like this get flying, so it makes Gatekeeper a 4/3 flyer, so it's just really nice. You don't really have a whole lot of way to manipulate this, like we're not running top, so I would probably say if you're going to do it, probably try and get a top in this deck list just for Vampire Nocturnus. Well, I mean, other than having just a top. Next up, we'll go to Enchantments. Grave Pact, 1 and triple black. Whenever a creature is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each other opponent sacrifices a creature. Again, creature strategies really want this. It's just a way to keep your opponent's board clear and stop them from really wanting to kill your creatures. Leyline of the Void, 2 and double black. If this is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. And if a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it. We're not running the combo, so don't worry about that. But there are some mass recursion spells in this deck, so this way it stops your opponents from doing anything unfair, and it doesn't stop you from doing anything unfair. So just a nice card. Oversold Cemetery. This is a card I don't think a lot of people really know about. 1 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, yeah, the effect isn't super amazing, but with all these creatures, you're almost always going to have at least 4 or more, assuming someone's not exiling them. And just free recursion every turn is just really good. Phyrexian Arena, 1 and double black for a enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. Draw a card, lose a life. Again, not running a whole lot of card draw, and there's not a whole lot of card draw in these colors anyways, so this is just one of the ways to keep your hand full. Phyrexian Reclamation, another graveyard recursion effect. 1 black for a black mana for this enchantment. 1 and a black, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, it's not free, but you could do it multiple times a turn, and the 2 life generally isn't going to be too hard, because a lot of these vampires do have lifelink. And lastly, Stranglehold, 3 and a red for an enchantment. Opponents can't search their libraries. If an opponent would begin an extra turn and the player skips this turn instead. So it just really stops your opponents from getting the answers they need to. It stops blue players from taking extra turns, and it stops black players from searching out answers. I mean, it stops any colors from doing that, but those are the main 2 colors. Next up, we'll go to artifacts. Basilisk Collar, 1 mana equipment. Equipped creature has death touch, and lifelink. Sorry about that, and equips for 2. So with this and Olivia, you can start pinging to death all your opponent's creatures if you don't want to steal them or don't have the mana to. It also gives her lifelink, so you can swing in for a huge amount of life. Excuse me. Next up, Blade of the Blood Chief, 1 mana equipment. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. If it's a vampire, put 2 and equips 1. So everything that dies, including your opponent's stuff or your stuff, gives the equipped creature 2 +1/+1 counters on this, basically. Because almost anything's a vampire. Darksteel Plate, 3 mana for an equipment. It's indestructible, and equipped creature's indestructible, equips for 2. Again, people really want to get rid of Olivia, and this stops the destroy effects. Door of Destiny, 4 mana artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. You're almost always going to choose vampire. I don't know why you wouldn't. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a charge counter on it, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1 for each charge counter. So, again, a mass pump spell. It makes all your vampires into threats. Elixir of Immortality, 1 mana artifact, 2, and tap it. You gain 5 life, shuffle this in your graveyard into your library. Sometimes people are going to exile your graveyard. You don't want it to. It also stops milling. So, a nice card to have. It also gives you a little boost in life if you need it. Next up, Expedition Map. 1 mana for it. Pay 2, sacrifice it, search your library for a land card, reveal it, put it in your hand. You are running the Cabal Coffers Urborg combo, so if you want to search this out, you can't really recur Expedition Map that easily, but at least this way you can at least get half of it. So again, it grabs you any of the lands you really need in case you need fixing or whatever. Next up, Gilded Lotus, 5 mana artifact, tap to add 3 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. It's a ramp spell. Yeah, it's at 5 mana, but there are plenty of 8 drops in this deck, and this will get you to that 8 mana. Illusionist Bracers, 2 mana equipment. Whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated, if it's not a mana ability, copy that ability. You may choose new targets, equip 3. So this doubles the Olivia activations. This doubles Baron Sanguir's activations. It doubles all of them. So just a really good card to have. We don't have Strionic Resonator, unfortunately, in the deck, but this is what we had for instead. Next up, Mana Vault. Yeah, she has a Mana Vault. I mean, you can't really say too much about it. 1 mana artifact. It doesn't untap during your untap step. Beginning of your upkeep, you have to pay 4 if you do untap it. The beginning of your draw step, if it's tapped, it deals 1 damage to you and it adds 3. So it's not one of the more broken things. It's not as broken as Soul Ring, to be honest. Yeah, it adds an extra mana, but again, it just ramps you out to that vampire that you really need. Yeah, you have to pay 4 to untap it, but oh well. Next up is Mind's Eye, 5 mana artifact. If an opponent would draw a card, you may pay 1. If so, draw a card. So again, not a whole lot of draw in black-red. So this way, with the extra mana you have, you can just start drawing cards with your opponents. Nihil Spellbomb, 1 mana, tap it, sacrifice it, exile all cards in target player's graveyard. If it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, pay black. If so, draw a card. Sorry, excuse me. Again, another graveyard hate effect. Again, the graveyard is one of the most abusable areas in the game, so getting rid of it helps. Skull Clamp, 1 mana, equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Again, it makes your things more aggressive, and it refills your hand. Next up, Sol Ring. You have to have it. I wouldn't suggest a deck not run Sol Ring, assuming there's like some corner case or something. But you almost always want to run Sol Ring. Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip 1. Again, it saves your Olivia. It also makes her be able to swing in. Urza's Incubator, 3 mana artifact. When it enters, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. So this is a ramp spell basically for all your creatures. It's a really good one too. So it just really helps you cast all those 7 and 8 drops for a lot cheaper. And lastly, Whip of Erebos, 2 and double black for a legendary enchantment artifact. Creatures you control have lifelink, great ability, and 2 and double black. Tap it, return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, exile it at the beginning of the next end step. If it would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. Activate this ability only if you can cast a sorcery. So, again, yeah, it's a one-time effect, but if you really need a hasted Baron Sanguir or a hasted even Bloodline Keeper, a Butcher, anything, like, if you need it, it can get it to you. Next up, we're running for sorceries. Beacon of Unrest, 3 and double black for for a sorcery, sorry. Put target artifact or creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield. Shuffle this back in. So it grabs an artifact or creature. So I don't know what artifact you generally want to get, but generally it's creatures and it hits anyone. So that's why I like it. Beseech the Queen, 3 mana, or sorry, this is a 3 combination of either 2 colors or a black for a tutor, essentially. Search your library for a card with CMC less than or equal to the number of lands you control, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. So again, she doesn't have a demonic tutor, unfortunately, so this is what we were running instead. Blood Tribute, another fun card since we're playing Vampire Tribal, 4 and double black for a sorcery with kicker. Tap an untapped vampire you control, and target player loses half of his or her life rounded up. If it was kicked, you gain life equal to the number of life lost this way. So, for 6 mana, if someone's at 60, you'll gain 30, they'll lose 30. If they're at 100, you'll gain 50, they'll lose 50. Like, yeah, it's not going to really help if they're at 5 life, but it's just it gets people back in more manageable ranges. Damnation, 2 and double black, destroy all creatures they cannot be regenerated. A really good Black Wrath spell. So, next up, Decree of Pain, 6 and double black, destroy all creatures they cannot be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Really nice thing if you could actually cast it. Destroys all creatures and you just draw a bunch of cards, refilling your hand. If not, you can always cycle this. 2 and double black, discard it, draw a card. When you cycle this, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. So it's another form of a wrath spell. It's not going to hit everything, but you can do it at instant speed, and it also gets around countering. You can't counter the cycle. Diabolic Tutor, 2 and double black for a sorcery. Search your library for a card, put it in your hand. Again, would be Demonic Tutor. We're still in the process of getting her one. Exsanguinate, X and double black. Each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. Again, it's a nice finisher card, especially if you've got mana doublers out. If you do it for 10, you gain 30. Each opponent loses 10. Like, it's just really hard. It's a really good finishing card when you don't have anything else left. Increasing ambition, 4 and a black for, again, another tutor effect. But if you flash it back, you can search for 2 cards instead of 1, so added value. Living Death, 3 and double black. Each player exiles all creatures from his or her graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures on the board, and then puts all creatures exiled this way onto the battlefield. So it swaps your graveyard and your field. So again, everyone does this, so exiling graveyards helps. That's why we're running a few different effects. You're running a lot of creatures, so again, it really helps. Patriarch's Bidding, 3 and double black. Each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creature cards of the chosen type this way from the graveyard to play. So again, it's another Living Death, but only for certain creatures. And it doesn't kill any of your creatures on the field. So it's really nice. Again, if you exile your other opponent's graveyards, it just, again, really helps. Next up, Promise of Power, 2 and triple black for sorcery. Choose 1, draw 5, lose 5, or put an XX demon where X is the number of cards in your hand. Or you can entwine it for 4 additional generic mana. So another draw spell. Late game, you're probably going to have enough mana to entwine this, so you'll at least get a 5/5 demon out of it. Rakdos' Return, X and black-red. It deals X damage to target opponent. That player discards X cards. Not Mind Twist. We're probably going to exchange the 2 because Mind Twist is better. But again, another finisher. It also gets rid of the hands in case a blue mage tapped out, and you can hit them with that and just get rid of their hand. Temporal Extortion, 4 black mana. When you play it, any player may pay half of his life rounded up. If so, it counters Temporal Extortion. Take an extra turn after this one. So it's an extra turn spell, or it deals half their library. Yeah, it gets worse when people are on low lives, and they'll be willing to pay 5-10 life to counter it, but early game, this almost essentially means deal 20 or take an extra turn, which you're an aggressive deck, so either one really goes well. Vandal Blast, 1 red for a sorcery, destroy target artifact you don't control, and you can overload it for 4 and a red. Again, we don't have any way of dealing with enchantments, but we can at least remove the artifacts. So, next up, we'll actually go Planeswalkers, Soren Markov, 3 and triple black. Here's +2, deals 2 damage to target creature or player. You gain 2. -3, target opponent's life total becomes 10. And -7, you control a target player during the player's next turn. It starts at 4 loyalty. Most of the time, you just set someone's life down to 10 and then swing in to kill them. You're running Vampire Tribal, so you really can't not have at least 1 Sorin in here if you can. Because, again, father of all vampires. Next up, we'll go to Instants. Hero's Downfall, 1 and double black for an instant, destroy target creature or planeswalker. Removal in case you can't swing in for some reason, or it's something that really needs to be killed. Terminate, same thing. Destroy target creature, it cannot regenerate. It doesn't hit planeswalkers, but it will kill creatures. And Vampiric Tutor. 1 black, search your library for a card, put it on top, you lose 2 life. Again, Vampiric Tutor, it's Vampire Tribal. You gotta have it for flavor reasons. If not, it's just a really good card. Next up, we'll go to lands. This is not perfect. I'll let you know we're not running all... I think we're running the fetch, but I don't think this is perfect lands right now. We're still trying to figure out the right combination of red to black, or black to red. So, first up, Arcane Lighthouse. Taps for generic... or taps for color, and 1 until end of tap it. 1 and tap it. Until end of turn, creatures your opponents control lose hexproof and shroud and can't have hexproof or shroud. People are gonna suit up their creatures to stop Olivia from pinging them and stealing them. This says they can't. It's only till end of turn. Actually, yeah, until end of turn. So, but it does give an opportunity. It also allows other players to interact with other creatures in case you don't have a removal spell, but they do. Blood Crypt, the black-red shock. Good card. Majuka Bog exiles a graveyard. Cabal Coffers, pay 2, tap it, add black, equal the number of swamps you control. Again, this is a combo with Urborg, which I'll get into later, but it just nets you a lot of mana. Cavern of Souls, because you don't want your vampires to be countered. Command Tower, because you're not monocolored. The check land for fixing. Evolving Wilds, again, trying to get that right amount of fixing. So, 7 mountains, 1 Nykthos. It adds colorless, and you can tap 2 and tap it. Choose a color, add mana equal to the number of devotion of that color. If you haven't noticed, there are a lot of black mana symbols. So often you'll do it for black, and it'll net you a lot of mana. The red-black bounce land, there's not a whole lot of land hate, so she generally doesn't have to worry about someone strip mining it. Reliquary Tower, just in case. You never know when someone's going to play a turn 2 Jin Cataxis, and you need to keep your hand. 14 swamps, because we have a lot of swamp doublers, so more swamps is always good. Temple of the False God, it's a ramp spell, basically. Terramorphic Expanse to get the colors right, and then again, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Legendary Land. Each land is a swamp in addition to its other types. So all those swamp doublers, it doubles all the mana. It combos with Cabal Coffers. Like, all in all, it's a very good land to have. So this is my friend's Vampire Tribal deck. I hope you enjoy. Again, made this list on Tapped Out, not sponsored in any way, but want to thank them again because, again, it's a great service. If you can't, check it out. As always, the links are going to be down below. And, well, this is Hidden Planet X signing out, and I'll see you guys later.